The biggest cruise trends of this year are already changing how longtime cruisers plan their vacations. The cruise industry is undergoing its biggest transformation in decades, with everything from who is cruising to where they're going completely changing. So understanding these shifts isn't just helpful, it's essential so you can book smarter, save money, and have the best cruise experience possible. And if you're new here, I'm Kat, and I share cruise tips to help you have the best vacation possible. Now, today we're going over the biggest cruising trends for this year, and let me tell you, there's some exciting changes happening in the cruise world. And before we jump right in, if you find this video helpful, hit that like button to let me know, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming cruise content. And now this year, I'm sailing on the newest ships coming out, MSC World America and Norwegian Aqua, Star of the Seas, and Celebrity Excel, to bring you full ship reviews and all the information you need. So you'll definitely want to stay tuned for those. Now, let's start with one of the biggest trends that we are seeing in 2025, and that is passenger numbers are absolutely exploding. Now, according to the AAA, the record-breaking 19 million Americans are expected to cruise this year. And that's a 4.5% increase over 2024, but get this, it's a 34% increase from pre-pandemic levels during 2019. What's interesting is the shift we are seeing in who is cruising. And it's not just the traditional older crowd anymore. More Gen Zs and millennials are trying out cruising, which brings the whole new energy to cruising. And from our experience, this is changing everything from onboard activities to entertainment options. And I know not everybody likes it, but it's important to keep in mind so you know about it. Now, with all these people booking cruises, we're also seeing a huge surge of booking ahead of time. So that means that those last-minute cruise deals we used to love, they're getting harder and harder to find. And if you're thinking about a cruise for later this year or even 2026, you might want to book sooner rather than later. Now, let's talk about another major trend, the rise in family and multi-generational cruising. This has been growing a trend for years, but this year, it's reaching to new heights. And what we're seeing is that cruise lines are responding by creating more family-friendly amenities across all market segments, from budget to luxury. It's really fascinating that even ultra-luxury lines are now catering to family. For example, high-end brands like Explorer Journeys are including kids clubs with multilingual staff. And this is a big shift from just a few years ago when luxury cruising was almost exclusively for adults. Cruise lines are definitely taking notice to this shift, and they're creating more connecting rooms, family suites, activities that appeal to all the different age groups. And so, having tried both family-focused and adult-oriented cruises, I can tell you that there's a huge difference in the overall vibe and experience. So you want to be going in prepared for what it is that you're wanting to pick. With more people able to work remotely, we are also seeing work from cruise options that enable longer stays without using up all the vacation days. And I know I do that a lot. I work on my cruises. And I know some people say you should go cruising, relax and unwind. Well, I can't do that. I do have pressing matters. And so I am on my laptop, on the internet, working on the cruise many times. But you know what? I'd rather work on a cruise than work in my office. So that is a trend that busy professionals can really pay attention to. Another trend that's really picking up is solo travel. Cruise lines are finally recognizing that not everybody travels with a partner or a group, and so they are creating more dedicated solo cabins across their fleets. Norwegian continues to lead this area with their studio cabins and the lounge. What's really exciting is that we're seeing more premium options for solo travelers, including balcony cabins and suites, so it's not just interior cabins. And solo social events and activities are really expanding too, which makes it easier to meet other travelers if you want some company. And some lines are even reducing single supplements on select sailings, which traditionally has been a huge barrier for solo cruisers. Now, speaking of different experiences, let's shift gears and talk about ship size trends. the mega ship revolution is continuing full speed in 2025. Again, not everybody's happy about this, but we just sailed back to back on the inaugural sailing of MSC World America, which can hold 7,000 passengers, and Norwegian Aqua, another huge ship. All of these are joining that mega ship club. And these ships literally are floating cities with so many amenities that the ship itself becomes the destination. Royal Caribbean Star of the Seas, which is the sister ship to Icon of the Seas, it's going to launch in August of this year, and they said they're not going to make it a foot longer or do silly stuff like that they used to do, but it is still going to be now the world's largest ship's twin sister. We're going to be sailing on the inaugural sailings of Star of the Seas back to back. So again, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell to see it firsthand. But again, what's interesting is that we're seeing a real divide on the passenger preferences. So based on many cruises and many conversations with others, I'm seeing that many seasoned cruisers actually prefer smaller vessels for a more intimate experience. And meanwhile, first-time cruisers are often drawn to these massive ships with all their bells and whistles. Now, the good news is that the industry is catering to both markets, so there's truly something for everyone. We also noticed that the older ships are getting significant refurbishments to compete with these new vessels. So ships like Norwegian Epic and Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas are undergoing major makeovers to bring them up to date with the same modern amenities and designs. In 2025, we are seeing a significant rise in 3 to 5 day itineraries, especially in the Caribbean. Now, in fact, cruises of 5 days or less are projected to rise from just 2% of Caribbean cruises in 2023 to a whopping 18% in 2025. That's 1 in 5 cruises is going to be the short cruise. And you can watch my video about the major changes that we just experienced on short cruises, because I said I will never go on one, and we were actually surprised. So I will link it here and in the description. Now, interestingly, back-to-back cruising is also increasing as an alternative to longer sailings, and it used to be just something that those die-hard cruisers did. You know, the back-to-back, you'd go on one and then you get back right back on the ship. And now more and more people realize that this gives you the flexibility to either try out longer itineraries or stay on the ship and get off the port on one leg of the cruise and not get off on the other one. I have a video about the back-to-back cruising and how to maximize it, so if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. When it comes to destinations, the Caribbean remains the main draw for U.S. residents. AAA reported that 72% of all U.S. cruise passengers are heading there this year. Alaska and Mediterranean follow at about 6 and 5% respectively. And there's an interesting new trend emerging, and that is what some calling coolcations to colder destinations. So instead of going to the tropical island, places like Norway, Iceland, Alaska, and even Antarctica with that dreaded Drake's Passage that we're seeing so many viral videos about, they're increasing in interest as people look for something different from the typical beach vacation. Private islands are also becoming central to cruise itineraries. Carnival is investing $600 million into Celebration Key, which is opening in July 2025. Royal Caribbean is launching Paradise Beach Club in Nassau this year, and existing private islands are getting major enhancements. So these exclusive destinations give cruise lines complete control over the guest experience, which can be both good and bad depending on what you're looking for on a port day. Now, this brings me to my next point. We are seeing a shift away from some traditional ports due to over-tourism concerns. Places like Venice, Barcelona, and some Greek islands are adding restrictions on cruise ships, which is changing itineraries. The bottom line is that if there is a specific port you always wanted to visit, you might want to prioritize it before access might become more limited. Next, let's talk about one of the fastest growing segments in cruising, and that is ultra luxury. This market is experiencing the fastest percentage growth of any cruise categories, with hotel brands like Ritz-Carlton and Four Seasons entering the cruise market. For example, the Four Seasons yacht that's going to launch in January 2026 with 7-night sailings that start out at $20,000 per person. So that is definitely the high end of the market, and it shows that there's demand for these ultra premium experiences. But for those who want a taste of luxury without that massive price tag, ship within a ship concept is expanding across mainstream cruise lines. We're seeing MSC Yacht Club, Norwegian Haven, Celebrity Retreat, and Princess Sanctuary Collection. They're all offering this premium amenity experience, but at a lesser price than you would have paid for these ultra luxury yachts. Now, by the way, let me know, what do you think about those experiences, that next level of experience on the same ship that people are used to going to and paying less? River cruising is another segment that is expanding beyond its traditional market. Viking is adding 7 new ships in Europe. AMA Waterways is extending their seasons to include winter cruising. Now, what's really interesting is that ocean cruise lines are now entering the river market. For example, Celebrity is planning to launch 10 river ships in 2027. So this crossover shows how the lines between different types of cruising are blurring. Another trend that is increasing is that sustainability is becoming a major focus for both cruise lines and passengers. We're seeing significant investments in things like green technologies and alternative fuels. For example, Celebrity Excel will be the second cruise ship capable of running on green methanol when it launches this fall. MSC World America and several Royal Caribbean ships are using liquefied natural gas, which is cleaner than traditional marine fuels. And so these initiatives are becoming important marketing points as more cruisers consider environmental impact in their travel decisions. So here you have it, the biggest cruising trends for this year. I'd love to hear from you what you think of these trends, or if you're seeing any others that are really starting to change the way you look at cruising. And if you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and then watch these videos next.